2, 1.
Non-rockabotus must stop. I don't want to rock the boat. I want to sink it.
Are you going to bark all day, little doggy, or are you going to bite?
You're being delusional. I love you, Jeff.
Delusional, yeah. Delusional is okay in your worldview. I'm an animal. You don't chastise chickens for being delusional. You don't chastise pigs for being delusional. So you calling me delusional using your worldview is perfectly okay. It doesn't really hurt. She hung up on me.
What?
Desperate times call for faithful men and not for careful men. The careful men come later and write the biographies of the faithful men, lauding them for their courage.
Go into all the world and make disciples. Not go into the world and make buddies. Not to make brosives.
Right.
Don't go into the world and make homies.
Right.
Disciples.
I got a bit of a jiggle neck. That's a joke, Pastor.
When we have the real message of truth, we cannot let somebody say they're speaking truth when they're not.
Take an amazing journey to a place that will blow your mind and move your heart so you will never be the same again.
Teacher, which is the greatest commandment in the law? And he said to him, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul, with all your mind. This is the great and first commandment. And a second is like it, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. On these two commandments depend all the law and the prophets. That is Matthew 22, 36 through 40. What's up, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of Apologia Radio. And we actually have a very special show today for you guys. We're doing a Apologia Sheologians mashup. Thought it'd be fun to do. We're going to talk about all manner of things, but mainly one thing. But before we get into that, man, I nailed the timing on that today, didn't I?
Yeah.
That was good.
Really
It's
good.
hard to do it's hard to do sometimes.
I don't know what you're talking about.
We're listening to Stranger Think.
He's talking about the music versus the verse.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's hard to get all that
Kind of
timing
when it
down.
ends. So sometimes you have this like very powerful verse that's kind of bolstered by the music, and then the music just like stops, and you're like finishing the last few words of the verse. Just kind of.
That's awkward.
I mean, it doesn't.
You nailed it. Good job.
Thank you.
Good job. Oh.
So,
I
think I just got a beard hair.
Sorry, that's probably mine. Summer's in my chair. I am in the captain's chair today because Pastor Jeff is at the SBC conference in Anaheim, which probably is the last day of SBC as we know it. So
officially, at least.
Right. They may continue
SBC.
to go by the SBC in name, but we know.
Yeah.
We won't get into that today. Anyways.
Thank you.
So I want it to be a fun show.
Okay, great. Yeah. No one came here for that today.
I wasn't. Yeah. Okay. So all that to say, welcome Summer to my seat in the beard hairs.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate it. I'm normally in that seat when we do Sheologians, so this is like a real swap.
Oh, real swap-a-roo.
Yeah.
And this is where I sit no matter what.
Yeah.
She's comfy.
Why mess with her headphones, her mic levels? Just leave it there.
Yeah. Summer was wise. She said, I'm not even putting these headphones on until you cut the volume in half.
Yeah.
Because it still was too much.
I think your hearing is not good.
It's not.
Okay, so like Luke's headphones will be hanging on the microphone and you can hear it without putting them on.
Like from over there.
It's from a lot of metal shows.
Yeah.
Working in construction, and that's why.
I mean, that pretty much covers it.
That makes
Even
a lot
if
of
there's
sense.
a third reason.
Yeah. Okay.
It's not wearing earplugs, I guess is what I was going to say. So. You know, in my older age, I've learned, like, when I go to shows still, which is not very often, but I bring earplugs, and I'm like, I can actually hear the music better with earplugs in. Why didn't someone tell me
static.
this when I was 19 years old?
Because you still wouldn't have used them
Probably
when you
not.
were 19.
Probably not.
Because they weren't cool.
They weren't cool. Someone needs to invent cool earplugs.
You would have worn some if they had some with little like nautical stars.
Totally.
Back in the day.
Yeah, totally.
You'd have been like, yeah, these are my
100%.
These are my
Anchors or something.
earplugs. Yeah.
Yeah. But such is life. So this, if you're listening YouTube and you're trying to copyright me, this is copyright free. This is Stranger Think. So Don't even try to shut me down, because it says royalty free. So.
Are there like bored people in their basements that do that?
Probably.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
There's so much royalty free stuff, pictures, music.
No, I mean like they're just here to like try to kick us off YouTube.
Why do you think there's so many dudes living in their
Yes,
mom's basement?
yes.
Playing video games. They just go through YouTube stuff and when it's live and that's a copyright strike.
Like what's the Karen version, like the Karen name for a dude?
Ken.
I think they
Chad.
established it.
Yeah, there's got to be. What's the male version of a Karen?
Well, because I remember they came up with a like modern version, so like the millennial version of a Karen.
Oh.
But I think maybe it was like Brittany.
Brittany.
Sorry to any Brittany's out there.
It's absolutely
Sorry.
Brittany. That makes a lot of sense, actually.
But I don't know what the man version is.
Yeah, I don't know.
Kenneth?
Kenneth?
Kenneth, that's good. What's the frequency?
gotta-
Kenneth. You guys are too young for that.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's an REM song. My wife will get it. She's actually going to listen today because you guys are on. Thanks.
I was
Appreciate it.
gonna say.
Hey, Cheryl.
Yeah.
That joke.
She even told me. She's
that
actually-
joke I made a second ago about the earplugs. I was like, as I was saying it, I was like, I really hope Cheryl's listening because she
Yeah.
will really get it.
She will, yeah. So you're welcome. Sorry, I missed call. So I don't remember. Oh yeah. So speaking of Karen videos, besides the calm down, you seen that one?
No.
Have you seen that?
No.
Oh, the dude.
No, it's a chick, and she like, reaches into. They're like an Uber driver, and she like the Uber driver almost hits her or something, and she stop. It's like they're at a stoplight or something, and she like. It's. I'll send it to you. It's amazing, but there's bad language in it, so I can't play. But
Okay.
she just keeps going, calm down, calm down, like a cat or
That's
something.
the Karen.
Yeah.
Karen arm.
You have to laugh.
But
so
my
you don't
favorite
cry.
one is the one Jeff sent the other day. I think Jeff sent it. She's like, "You killed me."
Yeah.
You didn't see that one? It was on the
No.
radio.
It's
thread.
one of those like she's
stealing somebody's mail,
yeah,
and the
But
dude's
she's-
like, "What are you doing?"
but she's trying to make it seem like he hurt her.
Why?
Because narcissism. I don't know. Because they're having a confrontation, so she just suddenly starts acting like he hurt her.
She falls on the ground in the middle of the street.
Right, way worse than he like doesn't do
filming
anything. Yeah.
And she's rolling in the street, and she literally goes, "You killed me!" And it was like, I'm not sure about
I
it.
was talking,
be
That's
that
questionable.
person.
That's questionable.
I was like talking to somebody this morning because we both used to work at the same place 10 years ago.
Uh-huh.
And she was kind of like filling me in on like what's happened in the last 10 years. And my jaw was like on the floor because like the standard way that the new generation works and like thinks and interacts is so different
Oh yeah.
than even just 10 years ago. And she was explaining to me like how COVID like changed so much about the workforce. She was telling me things that like I couldn't even like I couldn't wrap my head around.
I don't think that I have gotten, which I'm not trying to be a Karen here, but I don't think I've gotten customer service, like good customer service.
Oh yeah.
In a long, even from places where you
You expect it.
right, like Chick-fil-A or In-N-Out or
Yeah.
Costco, just places that used to kind of be known. But I think,
Yeah.
and I don't necessarily know that it's all the employees' fault, but they put big plastic sheets between the employee and the customer.
And or mask.
And masks.
Right. And
yeah.
so, like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I think
weird.
it just
It's weird.
ruined it because there became no. If I tried to start a conversation with the Costco cashier, they're wearing a mask
Behind
at
a
one
plastic-
point. Like all the customers at Costco are wearing masks,
Yeah.
and then there's a plastic sheet, and it's like, just scan my card and
Let's just get this over with.
yes, I want a box. I know you don't want to give me a box, Costco,
Give me
but
a
yes,
box.
I want one.
Anyway.
It gets to the point where you're writing messages in the plastic sheet
Yes.
from your breath.
Yeah.
You know? Just help.
Except for breath is
Box.
Yeah. Breath is
Don't-
not allowed.
Don't leave your breath.
Well, I mean, that was when there was masks, that wasn't possible, but
Right.
they took the masks away. Now you can. You're like. Anyways, so all these things we're talking about good self-government today, and within the family structures, but Karens typically have bad self-government.
Yes.
So we'll just say that.
And I think it used to get away with it more, but now because of cell phones and everyone having a recording device immediately at their fingertips, it's become less flattering than it ever was.
Oh, true.
to be a Karen.
Yeah.
Like, you might ruin your whole life for being a Karen nowadays.
It's true.
Not that should be your motivation for, like, getting canceled shouldn't be your motivation for being pleasant, but
Yeah.
you'd
it's just
think it would
different.
help.
Yeah.
One would think. So we were discussing briefly. We didn't really plan this, but we thought maybe for funsies we would briefly discuss Stranger Things. I don't know. Should we give spoilers away or should we keep it vanilla?
How do you discuss it without spoilers?
I think if you haven't watched it,
At this point, you don't care.
it's sort
Right.
of like too bad.
Yeah.
Someone in the chat did recommend that Terry be the Karen.
Terry.
I do think Terry is a very good.
But millennials aren't named Terry.
But then I think of I'm gonna
Well,
drag
neither-
you scrounce like Terry's. We're gonna
What?
from Key and Peele.
From
You never
Key and
seen
Peele,
the
the
Terry's?
terrorists.
So
Sorry. Missed
okay.
it.
I got that one.
that's a good one. Yeah. So okay,
Sorry,
we'll
yeah,
just say
so Stranger-
spoiler alert.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen season 4 yet, shame on you. But also spoiler alert because we're gonna spoil things. So if you haven't seen it, you might want to pause this before if you plan on watching it. So thoughts? It's awesome. It's really they stepped things up quite a bit in this season. It was like legit horror at times where I was like getting like goosebumps.
Yeah,
and
definitely
stuff.
not as much of a kid, which is I think is
No.
totally fine.
Yeah.
As they get older, they're not really kids as much anymore. So.
Right. Well, because they're
Yeah.
actually like in their 20s and they're supposed to be like 16
Right.
still.
I mean,
so,
there is
yeah.
that, of course.
They're not in their 20s.
Some of them are.
Well, not the main 5.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, some of them are.
No.
Yeah, I looked it
I
up.
do know that Joe Keery is 30, which is crazy to
No,
me.
I looked it up.
The guy
Some
that
of them
plays
are
Steve.
like-
Who is in their 20s?
I believe Mike and who else? They're like I think their ages are like 21, 20, 19, something like
crazy.
that. Somewhere in
Yeah.
there. Yeah. I looked up today. I was like, no, and I was like, oh.
Well, it's not
crazy.
surprising. I mean, they told us like in each of the seasons they're riffing off of certain like 80s films. So it's not weird that when they like told us before it came out, like some of the 80s films we're riffing this season are like Nightmare on Elm Street.
Oh yeah.
Which, you know, if you watch Nightmare on Elm Street now, it's kind of hilarious. Like it's funny because
Yeah.
it's so bad. Like it's so
Sure.
cheesy, but
I've actually never seen it.
okay. Well,
I
you're
wasn't
not
a-
missing.
Yeah, I wasn't allowed to watch it, and I've just
Yeah.
never watched it. So.
One time when I was a kid, I had a dream. I had never seen Freddy Krueger, but I knew like what he looked like from
Yeah.
pictures or whatever.
Yeah.
And I had a dream that we were riding on a parade float together, and he was like really nice, and so I just was never afraid.
With
Never
his
afraid
claw
of him?
and claw and everything.
He was like,
he's like
I mean,
misunderstood.
I don't know if he was
Like
nice.
Edward
to,
Scissorhands.
well, I don't know if he was nice to everyone, or
Oh,
if
but
it
he
was
nice
just
to
me.
you. Yeah, yeah.
So I was like, well, I
Yeah,
at
yeah.
least specifically don't need
Yeah.
to be afraid.
I did like how Freddy Krueger was in this season.
For sure.
Oh yeah, yeah,
It was great.
Yeah,
For sure.
That's
in this
right.
Season.
So
I listen. My thing has been for a long time. I think all through season 3, they're telling you that where the story is going is messing with time.
Right.
Like all through season
Yeah.
3, there's all these Easter eggs, and then it isn't an Easter egg so much anymore when you have like a clock as the symbol of the season.
Well, and the whole, I mean, if you think about it, the whole show is about time.
Yeah.
It's about like
whole
being
show.
transported back
Yeah. The
to
nostalgia
a time that used to be.
Yeah. And then the season starts with Elle saying, like, in a way, we're all time travelers. And Back to the
See, I
Future
didn't
was
even
the
catch
movie of season 3. And so
observant. I didn't catch that.
maybe nerdy.
That's okay.
then
I
maybe
love it. I
that's-
love it.
yeah.
Maybe that's where this has gone. But yeah, I have so many questions, and I think they're going to be answered.
I know there's only 2 episodes left, but they're supposed to be.
Yeah,
long
but they're like, one of
movies
them's
or
2.5
something. Yeah.
hours.
Yeah.
Oh, the second volume is
2 episodes.
oh, okay.
But I think it's
I
like
didn't know
one
what
of
to
them is
expect.
like 90 minutes, and the other one is like 2.5 hours.
Yeah, something like that.
So there's a
Interesting.
lot of show left.
I just think that it doesn't get much more 80s than like music.
Which, by the way, the
Solving the
soundtrack
problem of
this
evil.
season though,
The soundtrack is pretty bomb.
that Journey remix though is
Yeah.
is on point.
Even
And
my
then-
kids like the music,
Yeah.
the 80s.
Right. And I know that the what's the song? The
Kate
main
Bush,
song. Yeah.
Running Up
Kate
the
Bush
Hill.
has like become
Oh yeah, it's
A name
that
again.
chick
Yeah.
is happy.
Yeah.
Let me tell you,
Yeah.
she's rich all of a
well,
sudden.
she was a little alternative for her
the
time.
80s. Yeah.
So now she's probably like, yeah, I had a nice career.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, Stranger Things
Yeah.
comes out. It's
Well,
like,
they
wow.
said the Duffer Brothers said that like she had never allowed her stuff to be used in
Really?
film or
okay.
TV before, and they approached her, and lo and behold, she was a Stranger Things fan.
Okay.
And then when they like told her the whole concept
Right,
of the
Max's
song
story and
what it would be
everything, yeah.
used for, she was like, okay,
But yeah, I'm just like, the power of music is
a theme
a weapon.
the power,
The weapon
Yeah.
against evil.
Yeah.
I'm like, that is the most 80s
Oh,
premise
totally.
ever.
well, in the first volume, when Eddie goes, they give you an Easter egg that Eddie's going to use his guitar. If you remember,
Right,
in the
yeah.
first episode,
Mhm.
he sees his guitar,
Yeah.
and he like talks to it like a person. I absolutely believe his guitar is going to end up
I don't remember that.
in the upside down
Yeah.
at some point. Like he's going to have to save someone's life with his guitar. Is my
Yeah.
pitch.
Mhm.
That's going to happen.
I mean, that Kate Bush song, like, I was listening to it. I actually like the song, and I'm like, this could totally be a current day song, and, like, no
It
one would
could.
miss it.
Oh,
No,
yeah.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'd never heard of her before
Me
in my
neither.
life.
Cheryl's like, you don't remember? I was like, no.
No. No.
Sorry.
I wasn't alive
You
then.
guys weren't alive.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was, but I
Yeah.
don't remember, so.
Yeah.
But I do like the, obviously we can talk about story arc and, from a Christian worldview and stuff. I will say I was really starting to get annoyed at the beginning. Okay, so the whole, like, gay agenda they threw in last season, and then it starts off with that, and I'm like, if they make this whole season gay, I'm going to
Yeah.
be
That's
so
what
upset. But
Out.
I appreciate the fact that they just, like, I don't like that they threw it in there because it doesn't fit. It doesn't even fit in the storyline. But at least they were like, we dropped it, now we're moving on, and it's not any part of the story.
It's like
It has
every
nothing to
show
do.
now has
Yeah.
to have some sort of nod that there's someone gay in this universe. Like, we just have to say, this person is gay, and
Yeah.
then they don't do anything more with it,
Right.
but they had to, like, do that much.
Right.
We just have to say that there were people that were openly gay
Yeah.
during the 80s.
I was like, no, there
Kids.
wasn't. Really.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Only Freddie Mercury. That
Moving
was it.
on. Yeah, it was dumb. I'm glad that, I hope that they keep
Yeah, that was,
being
I was a
nothing.
little, during the first episode, I was kind of ready to bounce, honestly. I was like, if by the end of the second episode, this isn't so
Yeah.
Yeah.
on the nose, heavy-handed,
Yeah,
I'm probably good.
yeah.
But they didn't.
This is where filtering
If you-
services might come in handy.
Right. Yeah. But if you're listening and you only watched the first episode and you were like, this is so just like silly with
Yeah.
the gayness.
Yeah. True.
It doesn't actually. They're heavy-handed in the first episode, but they don't actually
Yeah.
show anything, or they just basically allude to the
yeah,
fact
and then
that
it moves on. Yeah.
that one.
As long as
character
the filtering
is-
services keep offering like filtering out sexuality, then we'll be good. And if the filtering services aren't allowed to filter out homosexuality, that would be interesting.
that would be very interesting if filtering services were suddenly not allowed to filter out certain things.
I'm
could
I'm
totally
curious
see
if that's going to
that
happen
happening.
eventually. But
I think there's enough of a market though for people that want to remove despicable.
yeah, we'll
you,
see.
Did you guys cry when there was when Hopper and her reunited?
I didn't. I loved it.
Cheryl did. My wife.
But
did.
I'm just so
didn't-
curious about what's gonna happen.
Yeah, I mean,
because their
now
story,
what?
Yeah.
they like. I mean, yeah, they're.
Well, Enzo's
Now
going to be a
what?
part of the show, I think. I think Enzo's going with them.
Oh yeah.
I think Enzo's going to become a new character, and I think that'll be interesting because he has a leg up on what the Russians are doing.
Right.
True.
He might have like
Right.
information that could be helpful.
True.
So
Yeah.
I think those four.
And he's already a traitor, so
He's already
True.
he pretty much is going to go with them or he's going to be murdered. So like
right.
he's going to go with them is I think what's going to happen. So
Move away from Russia to the United States.
do
Okay.
it. Yeah. No problem.
I
I don't know that they're gonna get back. I don't know.
Yeah, they are.
They
Don't
have
say
to at
that.
some point, but I'm really starting to enjoy Murray's
Don't say
character.
that.
I love his character. At
Love
first, I was
Murray.
like, "This guy's so annoying."
Yeah.
Favorite character, Hopper. I mean, I am Hopper basically. So
Yeah, Hopper's definitely up there.
Oh man.
For me.
were you not ready for this question? She's not even sure.
Hopper's up there for me, although not so much in this season.
He was kind of a dork. Like he just.
No, I like Hopper a lot.
I mean, like he kind of was like being like a kind of wussy, like at first.
Steve is my favorite character.
I mean,
I was gonna get to Steve.
I think Steve's my favorite. I've really been liking Lucas.
Okay.
I feel like they're developing his character a little bit more.
Okay.
But also, I think they're going to kill Steve. So.
Well, that's what. Okay, so I was going to bring up Steve
really
because
sad, but I think they're.
I feel like
They cannot.
Steve's on the redemption arc, right? Like he's the redeeming character. He's a complete jerk at the beginning. Yeah. And now, like, I think when you go to this next episode, I think he's going back in to rescue.
He's going to sacrifice himself.
And, yeah, that's what I think too.
Y'all, I am way too pregnant for letting go of Steve right now.
I think so too.
I think the only reason I think that is because that is a sort of a current cultural way to wrap up. I am all for sacrifice, like redemption and sacrifice, and then they live and they're all just like happy. They're happy together.
Please, can that happen?
But I feel like it's more common nowadays for people to like go the whole way.
If they kill Steve, I will riot.
Well,
so that's just all there is to it.
I might join you.
I'm gonna write them a strongly worded letter.
Dear Duffer
brothers.
Just don't go into labor, okay?
Y'all, y'all messed up. I'm like in labor, leaving them a voicemail. We have women that leave us voicemails in labor. It's like a thing.
Yeah, it's happened
on
before.
The Sheologians line.
Never had that happen.
Well, maybe
not even my wife.
Maybe you can change your son's name to Steve.
To Steve in memory of Steve. Grow his hair out all long and teach him how to play baseball.
Middle name Harrington.
Steve
That's
Harrington
amazing.
Yeager.
I like this.
My husband would riot.
Yeah.
Totally do that.
Yes, sounds about right.
So yeah, so you know what character who every time he opens his mouth, I just crack up laughing, but ultimately has really bad self-government.
Yeah, the guy with the long hair.
Oh no.
Oh.
He does too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I was gonna say Mike and Nancy's dad.
Oh, he's the worst.
But every time he says something, I
worst.
laugh because it's like a total like
He's a trope.
dad thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
He's the trope of like the sitcom dad that totally is awful at life.
Right.
Like horrible at life.
Did you guys notice? I had to rewind and watch it again when the kids all left. You know, they snuck out when the cops were there, and then when his dad ran after them. Mm-hmm. Did you catch how hilarious it was when he was running?
No.
Okay, go back and watch it.
Okay.
I promise you'll want to watch it. It's hilarious. I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, rewind. And I was watching it with my wife and Evie, and we were like, we wound it, and we were just crying, laughing. It just looked hilarious. He just like.
Great.
Anyways.
Yeah.
So he has a really bad family governmental structure.
Yeah, he's not good.
Which is the point of this show today. So I think it's a good transition.
Launch into there.
Yeah, from Stranger Think.
It was a little rough, but okay. We'll keep
I
sailing.
do what I can.
Yeah.
I do what
We're
I can.
flying from Alaska to Russia right now.
Yeah. I was going to say not as rough as when Steve dies.
That's going to be...
Stop.
So rude.
That's going to be a rough one for sure. Well, we'll see. We'll see.
Steve is
see.
not
What is
going
it?
to die.
July 1st? Is that
Jonathan's
when it
certainly not going to sacrifice himself.
Jonathan.
No,
What happened to
Jonathan.
Jonathan?
He was the wrong choice. It should have been Steve all along.
Jonathan. Okay.
Yeah, anyway.
So,
Jonathan.
Take Jonathan, not Steve.
That's hilarious. So we want to talk about seriously here about self-government. What does that look like? And it was funny because Joy and I were like kind of scrambling a bit because I just could not find a topic for this week. And then I was like, hey, let's do a mashup. She's like, okay, great. And then I was like, she's like, what do you want to do? And I was like, self-government. She's like, perfect. I was like, all right, let's do it. So I've actually been preparing to teach through this book from Rusty Thomas. If you don't have it, you should have it, called Biblical Strategies to Abolish Abortion. So I'm going to be teaching on a chapter in here on the God's spheres of government, chapter 3, governments of God. And so it's kind of fresh in my mind, but something we talk about a lot. But just so to leave just a kind of general outline of the spheres of government of God. There's basically 4 spheres: self-government, family government, church government, and civil government. Some people add 2 others, vocational and educational, which are legitimate spheres of government, just not the 4 basic ones. There's definitely jurisdictional authority in those spheres. But one thing I really like that I've just appreciated from Rusty in this book is, ultimately he's saying because this is all about ending abortion. Ultimately, the civil government, it's their job to end the murder of our preborn neighbors. But he makes a great point to say that it has to start, and the individual has to start with self-government, and so we'll talk more about that and then kind of into the family governmental structure. But so it's funny, not funny. I was working on my notes yesterday, and I had to have a talk with my children because my wife wasn't feeling good. She was laying down, and it was like they all of a sudden went. I was in my office. They know if I'm in there working and studying, they're supposed to knock and not just barge in, but they apparently didn't think they needed to do that, so they kept barging in and were fighting and being lazy and all this and that. And it was like, so I had to have a talk with them. I was like, we're trying to teach you good self-government. So what that means is, like, when mommy has to lay down because she's not feeling good, that doesn't mean that you are no longer under any governmental structure and you can just act as you please. Yeah. You still have to adhere to the self-governmental rules and laws that we have tried to raise you up in. And so it was just funny. It was like I'm preparing to teach on, and the guy's like, well, here's a good example.
Yeah, your response, whether you're doing it well or poorly, you are governing yourself. Yeah,
sure.
It's one of those things that's just in place.
Can't get away from it.
Yeah. So that's why the verses I read at the beginning, ultimately that's the founding principles on good self-government is love God and love neighbor. So if you're acting selfishly, you're not doing either, Mm-hmm. And so, obviously you're probably just getting into that with Georgia. Maybe you're past getting into that with her, but
yeah.
Probably.
I mean, we started early. Probably.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know when people start, but
10
my
months.
son just turned 1 and he's already getting spanked.
I mean, basically we started when she was sinning.
Yeah.
So
when you can tell that she knew.
Right.
She was doing what she was told not to.
Yeah.
Which is like 10 months, honestly.
Yeah.
For most kids.
Yeah, that's probably about right. Yeah.
Well, and then I think, then there's the right away. There's this, you're teaching them like self-control, and then you have to teach them quickly. Be self-controlled.
Yeah.
Quickly.
Yeah.
Govern yourself quickly. Like
obedience now, all the way, joyfully.
Right.
Is the 3.
Yes. Yeah. So like these are the phases we go through.
Yeah.
I had a situation with Jonas probably about 3 weeks ago where he was trying to touch something he wasn't supposed to touch. It was in my phone. He as soon as we put our phone down, he's like beeline to our phones.
Yeah.
And I'm like, don't do it. I'm watching you. Don't do it. And he's like, I'm like, don't do it. And he just kept looking at me, and he was like having like a legit like internal struggle. And he was just like, and I was like, I'm watching you. Don't do it. And so finally he gave up, and he just sat down and was just like, but he did the right thing. Yeah. But it destroyed him in the process.
It hurt him to do it. Yeah. So
I loved it.
January, which she's 6 right now, when she's told something that she goes against what she wants to do, she gets this little like eye twitch, like this little like
funny.
She does it, but she's like she doesn't like hearing it, and her eye starts doing this. And my husband says I do the same thing. So.
Oh, just, don't let her play poker.
Yeah, no.
She's got a very definite.
She and I do not have poker faces.
Yeah, I don't think anyone from that genealogical line.
If you're related to my dad
with poker
we
faces.
do not have poker faces.
There's no
all in.
Basically. Yeah. I start laughing, and anyway. Yeah.
That's hilarious. That is so funny.
Well, actually, Janny said something that I think about all the time.
What?
She was like, I wish I could quote her directly.
I think I know.
But she was like, when you don't want to eat your food, which is a Janny thing.
Yeah.
When you don't want to eat your food, you take a deep breath and you do it anyway.
She was giving advice to Georgia.
Yeah. And speaking of governing yourself.
Take a deep breath.
Just like
you do it anyway.
Right.
That's excellent advice.
When obedience is required and you just don't want to be obedient, you just
take a deep breath and you do it anyway.
That is really good advice.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes, from the mouth of babes.
Yeah. That little girl has a lot of wisdom. Well, hey, before we go any further, we're going to take a quick break. I'm actually going to play a commercial here for ReformCon, ReformCon.org, coming up 4 months away now, coming up very quickly. If you watched last week's episode, we basically just cut what we talked about last week, put links in there for everyone. So we're going to drop that real quick. Summer's pregnant and probably needs to go to the bathroom.
It's true.
So, Gabe, you got that ready, my dude? Yes, I guess so, because I hear an echo. So go ahead and play that, Gabe, and we will be right back and get back into this conversation.
The conference is by this standard, and we're going to talk about how we use the Word of God to transform the world and to increase and spread Christ's glory, His gospel, His supremacy, and His dominion into every area of life, whether that is the arts, whether that's economics, whether that's education, whatever it may be. Christ is Lord there. One thing Andrew Sandlin said that I think is sort of like the highlight of what I want to sort of express, you and I have talked about this a lot, at ReformCon, as we talk about by this standard, is that all of life is worship. And so we played a clip once of Andrew Sandlin talking for us about a minute long, talking about how one of the things the Reformation did is the Reformation took away the idea that Roman Catholicism had started to exalt and promote, and then like the real spiritual stuff takes place in that building, and that priest, he's really spiritual. Like that's the high spiritual work there. Everything else there, everything out there in the world, that's, whatever. Is God really concerned with that? No, all of life is worship. And so he said something I think probably shocked people there. He said, you should play professional basketball for the glory of God.
Amen.
That's worship. And all of life is worship. Owning a business, running a business is worship. Whether you're you're owning a laundromat, do it for the glory of God. Do it as worship. And so we're going to do that. We're going to do it in so many different areas. We've got live performances. We've got after parties. We've got great teaching. Who's coming to teach?
You.
Yes.
Dr. James White, Joe Boot, Toby Sumter, John Sampson, David Bahnsen. Did I say Andrew Sandlin?
No.
Okay, Andrew Sandlin.
I think you automatically add like 25 points too because we have a Bahnsen.
Yes,
there, right?
That's also true.
Yeah,
we have a Bahnsen.
That is also very true.
Yeah.
And we can now officially announce that Ben Merkel is also teaching for us.
Oh, nice.
And he'll be doing education.
So reformcon.org. Get your tickets because we got a great venue. It's not like some people hold conferences that we know where it's like, in a horse stable where you can't see anything and you can't even see the screens or see the speakers and, treat you like cattle. They treat you like cattle, some conferences.
Plus, I've also heard you get extra Reformed points if you go to a conference on Reformation.
That's true.
Right?
It's extra.
On that actual
It's
weekend.
bonus.
That's absolutely
it's
true.
It's bonus.
So for those of you keeping track of your points.
This is actually really cool. Hotel prices right now are like through the roof because of everything.
Yeah.
And thank you, Sleepy Joe. Not ours, not for ReformCon, because we have prices locked in before all the stuff started raising up. So you can get your rooms there at the hotel. We have a ton of sponsorship opportunities, whether it be exhibitor booths, whether it be T-shirts, water bottles, all kinds of stuff. So you can go and get your if you're interested in that, you can do that. Plus, like Jeff said, we're going to have a number of podcast booths available as well. We have Podcast Row. It's going to be separate from the exhibitors hall. And the really cool thing we haven't really talked a lot about is the after party, which you mentioned. So after the opening night, we're going to have a special ticket for the after party. It's going to be just a chance to hang out with us. And it will include we're still working on this, at least one drink token, possibly two. Part of the package
For apple juice?
Yeah, if you want apple
juice. Apple juice, amen.
Apple juice. Yeah.
So reformcon.org.
Yep.
That's where people get hooked up, get tickets, get them as soon as you can. All right, so that's it, guys. Reformcon.org. Make sure you get your tickets. We're looking forward to seeing you guys all out there. It's going to just be a great time. Again, Christian conference we're hoping to do like no other. We're hoping that you don't just have to sit there for, 2 days and just get, hour after hour after hour after deep, hard pounded truth. I've been to conferences like that where by the middle of the day, you're just exhausted. You haven't had a chance to digest any of it or to fellowship and enjoy really your time. We want to make sure that this is an enjoyable experience where you're getting solid, really great teaching, stuff that'll transform your lives. And also at the same time, get some Christian entertainment and enjoy one another's fellowship. And so that's what's up.
All right, welcome back to Apologia Sheologia Radio.
The dad jokes.
Yep, for days. So, yeah, come to ReformCon. It's going to be awesome. You just watch 5-minute commercials. So I'm not going to say anything else if you're still with us. So, back to our conversation. Like, when I was talking to my kids yesterday, I said, hey, look, Mommy and I want to teach you to have good self-government. And, and then Mommy and I need to have good self-government, and so then explain it. And then it's the family government. So if we don't have good self-government, you guys can't have good self-government, and then the church, if there's not a lot of good family governments, then there's not going to be any good church governments. And if there's no good church governments, which is what we're seeing, then the civil government is just tyranny. Right, that's the end result.
Well, the idea is that the civil sphere just takes over the government.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they're gonna have to fill in the vacuum.
Right. So that's why they are in charge of things like helping poor people, all the way to,
education.
Yeah, right. Like managing
healthcare,
general beliefs about morality and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
because they're trying to take over. Well,
yeah,
we've
trying
to take over / we have willingly given them, because what that indicates is people who don't want to self-govern, don't want to govern their families, and churches that don't. I would say churches more kind of abdicate their role to the civil sphere.
Oh, totally. Here's a quote. This Rusty starts off this chapter with this quote. It's from Robert Winthrop, who was Congressman, or Speaker of the House, like in the 1840s. He said, all societies of men must be governed in some way or other. Men, in a word, must necessarily be controlled either by a power within them or by a power without them, either by the word of God or by the strong arm of man, either by the Bible or by the bayonet. And I love that quote. And I mean, that's what we're seeing, right? Like, our nation was founded on those principles. They had really great self-government. They left England so they could have that liberty and freedom to do so, and we've gotten to the point where the civil government's grown so much that they just and people have such bad self-government that it's literally it's Bible or bayonet. Are you going to follow God's word and His standard on how to live, or are you going to let the state tell you how to live and rule you by coercion and force?
Yeah, and you see that with your kids too.
Oh, totally.
I explain to my kids all the time, like, being self-governing, being responsible means that you're going to be free in a way that if you will not self-govern, you're not going to be free. So either you're going to self-govern and enjoy freedom, or I'm going to have to come rule over you.
Yeah.
And I will always win, just FYI. So, like, it's, and like you said, Bible or bayonet, like, it's either you are submitting to the word of God or someone else is going to make you submit.
Yeah.
Like, those are really your only two options.
Spank and spoon maybe might come into play.
Whatever it is. Yeah.
No, that's a great point. And there's another quote in there somewhere, but it's like basically like God gave us 10 rules to follow.
10
for basic self-government. You can follow those.
Yeah.
Or the other option is thousands of rules from some subjective governing body telling you how to live.
Yeah.
Subjective being
being a key phrase.
The most key phrase.
Yeah. Oh, totally.
Well, and we've talked about it a lot. Like, I actually had someone say to me the other day, like, the first waves of feminism, like, weren't so bad. It's like these feminists now that are really bad. And I, like, didn't have an hour to explain to her why I don't agree with that. But, ultimately, when you look back at what the early feminists were fighting for, they were fighting against the lack of self-government that men did have, right? So when they were fighting for prohibitionism, what were they asking for? Like, basically, the men were not self-governing, and there were a lot of drunks, and there was a lot of abuse happening because the men were not self-governing. The church wasn't governing over the men that were in the church. And so the women asked the state to step in and do something that we don't support, because ultimately, why are we against prohibitionism? Well, because that's not the civil government's job. Like, telling you how much you can drink is not the job of the government. Do we agree that it's a problem if, like, an entire society of men, by and large, could be called drunkards? Yeah, that's a problem. Yeah. But feminism was asking for the state to step in. And ever since women did get their right to vote, there's this really interesting statistic that since women have been granted the right to vote, the growth of the government has been exponential. And why is that? It's because women are asking the government to step in and do what the men are not doing.
Yeah. Isn't it so when the women were fighting for the right to vote too, wasn't it was actually household votes? Isn't that how it went?
It was household votes at the time.
Which I know Doug
Like
Wilson is still a fan. That's still what he wants.
We argue for the household vote.
I like the idea,
all the time, which in our view we would say like a single woman is the head of her household, so that wouldn't preclude.
I agree,
that wouldn't preclude women from voting, but we agree with the household vote as an idea, because it's true, many households are split. You have the wife voting Democrat, and then the man voting Republican in a lot of households. But yeah, just a lot of the things, it's not just prohibitionism, but the government, the early feminists did want to abolish slavery, which the government should have done.
Right.
So you have this kind of weird movement where it's like they're asking the government to do things that the government ought not do, and they're also asking the government to do things the government should have done already. So I think that's why it's hard for people to even think about the first wave feminists, but you can't talk about them without understanding what we're talking about, which is who is responsible for what.
Well, and at the time of the first wave feminists, it would have been totally acceptable for there to be spheres of government. And
the family government was a recognized governmental structure.
Right. As well as self-government.
Yeah.
You were actually required to govern yourself, largely according to scripture, whether or not you would have said
it was scripture.
I mean, and most people would have said they were Christians.
Everyone said they were a Christian.
Right. Yes.
A lot of the first wave feminists were Quakers, which interestingly
really?
enough, Quakers already had female pastors at that time too.
Interesting.
So that's an interesting little.
But it's interesting, and something I did want to talk about is that when you see so there's a breakdown of the spheres, and obviously certain spheres are in charge of legal matters, and some are not. So not only is there a problem when you abdicate all authority to one sphere, there's also a problem, and this is how you get a lot of laws that are not necessary, is by jumbling up the spheres and all of a sudden self-governing something that you should be able to accomplish on your own, hence the name self-governing, suddenly becomes against the law. Or and then all of a sudden you have the civil government attempting to, or the state, I guess, in a lot of these instances, attempting to enforce laws that would not actually have ever been laws. But
like
I guess,
wearing a mask, for example.
Yeah. I guess what I want to have a conversation about is how there is a difference between governing yourself poorly in a way that requires legal action and governing yourself poorly in a way that does not. Like the legal entity is going to come in and try to legislate morality and ethics and try to, in a way, they are like they deal with laws, but not everything regarding self-government requires a law, like being kind to people, for example, or not discriminating or being partial against people. Those, like, technically in the Bible, the partiality is a sin. But as far as I know, there is no law against partiality.
Yeah.
And so there is, at the heart of it, there is a obviously lacking in belief in the scripture to be a full resource for and the ultimate authority for how we create our laws. But it's just all kinds of all messed up whichever way you kind of cut it. And I don't even it's going to take reform. Lots
totally.
of reform.
It starts it starts in the individual with
Right.
self-government with the gospel.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Well, we've talked a little bit about this when it comes to abortion, but kind of like on the flip side of what you were just saying, because Christians have had a hard time realizing that there's a distinction between, like we were just saying, a sin and a crime.
Right. Yes.
Right. And so like we've had people that are very upset that like women who have an abortion should be penalized, Well, it's like, what if they repented? Why should we still punish them? And it's like, well, it's still a crime.
Yeah.
Right.
There's still a difference between they repented. They're good with God now. Like they've been reconciled with Christ, but they still committed murder, and there's still a criminal penalty for that. But sometimes Christians like conflate the two, and they can't see a distinction.
Yeah. Well, and the Apostle Paul said that if he was found guilty under Roman law of a capital punishment, that he would accept the capital punishment. Like if he was lawfully found guilty, like give him the just punishment of his crime. And I, like you said, I think a lot of people too think that for whatever reason we want to like go back and find every woman that's ever committed an abortion and then prosecute, and that's not what we're saying.
Not at all.
But you have to think about what you're saying when you say, I don't think a woman who has hired someone to kill her child is guilty of a crime. Like, if that is your position, you need to evaluate where you got that from.
Right.
Yeah.
It wasn't the Bible.
Right.
Like, that's not where you got that from.
Right.
So where did you get that from, and why is that your standard?
And that's actually a big discussion at the SBC this week. And again, we're not going to get into that, but that's been a very big conversation, within American Christianity. We've talked about the last couple months.
That's to our shame.
Yeah.
That's to the church's shame.
Oh, totally.
Absolutely.
Bad church government.
Yeah, that's even a conversation is that is even a conversation is a judgment on American Christianity.
Oh, it's 100%, yeah. So, going back to something Joy was saying, like ultimately we talk about this a lot, but the civil government, their role in the eyes of God, right, is to protect the innocent and punish the evildoer. They are God's avenger. It's literally God's deacon, and that's it. That's the responsibility they have before God. And so anything outside of that jurisdiction, they are overstepping their God-given rights to rule. And so, ultimately, there can only be one supreme being, and that's God, obviously. But what we're seeing is our civil government, our federal government is becoming, they're trying to make themselves God. They're trying to be the ultimate authority where they determine what's right and wrong. They determine morality, and they punish at will. And we have a fight on our hands.
Yeah, it's rather insidious because, we're talking about like, you guys were talking and you kept mentioning like governing and freedom, which I think some people would see some sort of contradiction there. Like, if you're governed, you can't be free. But the point of biblical self-government is freedom.
Yeah.
And that, so you're even looking at a bad definition of some really, really like key terms in terms of even understanding.
Yeah.
What we're talking about here. That's how far it goes. We've allowed even the language and the idea. We don't even have a biblical idea of what governance and what freedom looks like. But what's insidious is that our current culture and the current government, they are promising freedom.
Yeah.
It's all done in the name of freedom. And that is such a lie of all the CRT, critical race theory, intersectionality stuff, is that they're making themselves look like the hero of the story, but they're not only failing to govern well and in their sphere, they're not, the outcome is not freedom at all. It's total slavery to sin, and it just propagates the idea that whatever works for you, that there is no truth, whatever works for you. We obviously talked about this when we talked about Matt Walsh's documentary. And we really do believe that we should, like, in a weird way, they're selling self-government. Like, you are free to do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Well, it's abortion.
That's not governing yourself.
Yeah.
Doing whatever you want is rebellion.
Yeah.
But we've repackaged it into like, oh, no, really governed free people are the ones that do whatever they want.
Yeah.
And we're here as the United States government to give you the ability to do whatever you want.
Well, ultimately, you're either going to be under man's law or God's law, which is why you're going to have autonomy or you're going to have theonomy. That's the only two things you're going to be governed by ultimately. And so I think the choice isn't so much like, it's not whether you will be governed, it's by what are you going to be governed.
By what standard,
there's only two options.
And I would even argue, I mean, I agree with you completely. I would even argue that obviously I think if it was complete autonomy, we'd just have complete moral anarchy. But it's still a form of theonomy. It's just which God are we listening to, right?
We definitely live in like the last dregs of a Christian culture.
Oh, yeah.
Like the final gross swig at the bottom we're enjoying, like that, the nasty, like, oh, it's still, it only was there because of Christianity, but it's like gross now and it's morphing into something else. But
yeah, the illusion is still working.
Yeah. But we're casting it off so quickly
we're getting to a point where it's going to stop looking. It's going to become very apparent that doing whatever you want is not freedom, and it's not good governing.
Well, and I would even argue that those that are, like you said, the Marxists and the CRT people, they say one thing. It's my daughter made this observation. She was like, I hear all the time, like, believe whatever you want to believe and, go out there and see what's out there and just, it's up to you. You figure out. And she's like, but when they're saying that, what they're really saying is like, believe everything but Christianity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so they're even in their fake, like, whatever you want, whatever like makes you feel warm inside, even a small child hears it and knows, just don't believe in Jesus.
Right.
Because there is no neutrality. Like, there's no neutrality. This is a war between two gods, essentially, the God of this world and the true God. And you can't escape it. And it doesn't matter if you say, oh, whatever you want to believe or whatever makes you happy, whatever works for you. That's not what you mean, because if someone was like, well, what works for me and what I believe is Jesus, that would be a problem for the person saying that.
Totally.
I believe that truth is objective and not subjective.
Right. Well, that doesn't work for me.
Well, it's making me think again of the Matt Walsh documentary where the guy he's interviewing is like, are you invoking truth?
Yeah.
And I was just like, what a word. Yeah. Invoking truth.
Was that the wolf guy?
No.
It was somebody else.
That was he was a professor.
He was a professor.
Oh, yeah, that guy. Yeah. Vanderbilt, I think I remember correctly.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm seeing here in the comments, people are bringing up Eve in exile, and a really good conversation actually on Adam and Eve and the eating of the fruit. And so I'm going to jump in here for a second on this, because this is a very good conversation. They actually taught on this quite a bit recently. So this is really important, because a lot of people, everyone always, of course, blames Eve, and she's responsible for her sin of eating the fruit. But this is what I always like to point out is, like, let's back up a little bit, because before that ever happened, when God said, do not eat of this tree, Eve wasn't even around. That was straight to Adam. He hadn't even created Eve yet, right? So when we get to that point, in Eve, obviously, then it's a fight for autonomy, because she's trying to make up her own moral standard. Well, God said that we'll die. I was like, well, no, that's not what he said. So here's my point I always make is, one, Adam was sitting right next to her, obviously, because she turned around and gave it to him. So talk about bad self-government. Adam failed to have self-government, and then he failed to have good family government, because either he didn't relay the information correctly to Eve. He could have been the one that told her. I mean, obviously the serpent was there and everything, but he could have been part of that, like at least letting her believe that was a lie.
We don't. Yeah.
We don't know. So either he didn't govern her properly as head of his home, or he allowed her to believe a lie or whatever. Like that's why it's Adam. Adam's the one that's, you know, everyone's line of sin goes back to him, not to her.
Yeah.
But everybody always misses that. It's like, no, Adam was sitting right there.
Yeah.
That was actually, you know, he probably actually sinned first.
Yeah.
You know, and failure to
Adam should have gone to
govern his
war
life.
right then.
Yeah.
He should have gone to war and killed the dragon and got the girl, and he didn't.
Yeah, exactly. So hopefully you guys listening here in the chat, that answers some questions.
And
there.
he really, I know there's a conversation happening about whether or not he blamed Eve, but he did blame Eve, but mostly he blamed God for
Bingo.
giving
Exactly
him
right.
Eve. So it's really not even about who Adam. If Adam blamed Eve, it's more about who he did absolutely blame.
Totally.
This woman you gave me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You obviously made a faulty woman out of my own flesh.
It's really your fault.
You picked the worst rib.
I would have had you go a little higher up, but
So there's your original victimhood mentality right there.
Ooh, it was a man.
Yeah, it was a man.
Ooh.
He said, no, it was you. It's your fault. You gave me this woman.
Yeah.
Which, you know, to this day, I still have to deal with that in marriage counseling. I know it's hard to believe. But,
no, we're
you know,
married.
I have to tell a dude, like, stop blaming God for your sin.
Hot tip. Hot tip from Pastor Luke.
Definitely, if you take one thing away from this,
one thing,
you can forget all the Stranger Things stuff. And
I've literally had someone say, like, it's all these kids that God gave me.
Oh,
like, it's like, let's not say that. Let's not say that.
The world definitely says that. Mommy culture says that a lot.
Yes.
And it's really, really awful and gross.
Which is why I think it's so important. I do think, obviously, there's a reason why these spheres work together. But I think there's such a huge, just the fact that you're talking about counseling families within the church, obviously huge points for proper church government. Because they just, like, every time you see a sphere of government, right in the next sphere is someone of authority looking over that sphere.
Exactly.
And so it's this, like, it really is this system of checks and balances where the proper authority is overseeing the sphere right behind it, or however you want to imagine that. But yeah, self-government is, I honestly do, I think there are times, just because of sort of the weariness of life and circumstances, and sometimes it's circumstances regarding our own sin, or sometimes you're the victim. But church government is absolutely necessary for family and self-government.
Yeah.
There are times when it's not possible without that. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And this is one reason why you see in the Bible such clear and strict qualifications of an elder. Like, ultimately, if an elder isn't self-governing, and if an elder can't govern his home, then he can't be governing in the church. Like, this tells you something. Like, step number 1 really is self-governance.
Yeah.
You don't get to grow and become a godly parent, a godly mom or dad, if you haven't first practiced self-government. And then you don't get to grow into leadership in the political sphere or in the church sphere if you haven't practiced the preceding disciplines. Like, that's how it works. That's why you start with your 10-month-old.
Yeah.
That's why it's so important that the 2-year-old and the 5-year-old and the 6-year-old and the 15-year-old can practice self-government, because they're going to grow, and they're either going to be godly leadership or they're going to be tyrannical leadership, if they even get a leadership position at all.
Right.
Yeah. Speaking of bad self-government, we've literally never had this happen before.
I know.
There's like a
what?
There's like
some
somebody
kind of
keeps
bot that
bombarding our chat with, like, sex
nastiness.
Stuff. Yeah. Never had that happen before. This is the first.
This is absolutely the first time I've ever seen anything like that.
So you guys did mention that there are boring people living in their basements that do stuff like this.
Right.
So apparently,
yes, that is true.
That's
very,
gross.
very true. Well, we're getting close to the end here. This has been a really fun discussion. I want to end with a quote from my dude Toby Sumpter. He once said something along the lines of, if God is not our father, then the state will be our mother.
Yeah, that's true.
And I love that, and it's a perfect quote for this conversation. So when we forego God's standards of living for something else, then we need a nanny. We need someone to someone else to tell us how to live, and that's what we're seeing.
Specifically, not someone of authority.
Yeah.
So even in the reason why self-government and doing what you want are completely different things is because one of them involves a proper authority. So if you're self-governed, your ultimate standard is an authority above you.
Yeah.
Whereas if you do whatever you want, you're just a little child in rebellion.
Yeah.
And so it absolutely makes sense that we would pick the role between the headship of the father and the subordinates of the mother. It absolutely makes sense that we would pick the player that doesn't have the authority.
Yeah, that's a great point.
To
like how
actually govern in that way.
Yeah.
Amen. Good point. Thank you. This was fun.
Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, thanks
This
for...
just flew. We had fun.
It's been a while.
Flew?
It flew. Yeah, it went quickly.
Flu. I thought you said this was flu, and I was like, what is that? Is that a term the young kids are using?
I had to Google cap the other day.
Oh,
I'm an
no
old
cap.
lady now.
I don't even know what that is.
So cap.
No cap means
Carmen knows.
Of course
it's like
no lie. Is
right.
it right?
Yeah,
Am I right?
Like no lie.
No lie. No cap.
No cap.
So if people will say cap or no cap.
No kid. Like I'm
true or
not
false.
joking. I am.
Huh.
I'm still not.
Never heard that.
Yeah. Well.
I'm learning something today.
No. Yeah.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Thanks for educating me. Speaking of being educated, you can go to Apologia Studios and sign up for all access. It's $9.95 a month, I think. It's less than $10. We'll say that. It's awesome. There's all kinds of great things there. You can also get a free account of Bahnsen U, which is going to blow your mind if you want to be educated. That guy can teach you all about proper self-governing and the spheres of government. So go check that out. And as always, thank you everyone for your support for this studio and for End Abortion Now. A lot of stuff Jeff is doing this week in Anaheim is for End Abortion Now. Going to be some really, really great content coming out there, I know for a fact. And it's not going to look good for some people in the SBC.
Nice.
If you saw my face, I did the one emoji.
I
don't know what the name of that emoji is, but
I don't either.
I think it's just like cringe.
One of my favorite ones, honestly.
Yeah. But good stuff coming out of there, and man, God's doing a lot on that front to end abortion, and I know it seems like kind of hopeless at times, but we've made some great progress this year, and a lot of things are going to potentially change here depending on the Dobbs ruling, which we're patiently waiting for, which they keep saying is going to come any day now. So we'll be watching for that. But thank you for your support, End Abortion Now, and everything else we do. Can't do without you. So, Summer?
Yeah, you can join our book club. Joy and I talk about self-governance all the time.
Yep.
That's at patreon.com/Sheologians, and all of our stuff is at Sheologians.com. So
it's a great name, by the way.
He's tapping himself on the back because
Luke made it up.
Luke came up with that name.
He also does, which I feel like we always have to share, that he's the screamer behind the Sheologians.
Yes, he does the Sheologian scream.
I did it one time. I'm not ever doing it again. I've been asked to do it. I'm like, nope, I did it once.
You've been asked to do it?
Yeah.
I'm kind of flattered. All right.
Yeah.
I just found out the other day people listen to our intro music. I always skip it when I'm listening to our audio to make sure it's good, and I'm like right through it. But not because your scream isn't worth it or anything.
I get it. Completely get it.
Lots of we get voicemails, women saying when they start playing it that their kids will be like,
oh, that's awesome.
It's definitely you're definitely the kids' favorite part.
Yeah,
of
for sure.
Sheologians.
Yeah, good job.
It's just like the Stranger Things intro. I skip through it. But when that little thing comes up,
skip intro. Always, every time.
Yeah. So
unless you need a snack.
Right.
Which I always do. I always need one these days. So
it's funny. I always tell pregnant women, everything you're complaining about right now is my life 24/7. So I don't know what the problem is.
Sounds really uncomfortable.
I don't have a Stranger Thing growing in my upside down though.
Do you have someone kicking you? Because he's been kicking me this whole time.
No, I don't have that. That I can't. That I cannot. sympathize
Very
with.
uncomfortable and sweaty.
Yeah, that I can sympathize with. For sure.
And needing a snack.
And needing a snack. Yep, 24/7. Joy, thank you as always.
Thank you very much.
This was fun. We'll do it again
I agree.
sometime. Peace out.
Yeah.
Bye.